Hello everyone and welcome again. Here's Sophia Saad and I'm going to continue talking about stress. Today in this video, I will illustrate stress in complex words. Let me ask you a question. Why is word stress important? Stress is one of the most important speech tools used by English speakers to communicate meaning. English speakers use stress to highlight information they think is important. In addition, every English word with more than one syllable or word part has a defined stress pattern. How does it work? The English stress system is based on the contrast between stressed and unstressed syllables. Stressed and unstressed words. Stressed syllables are longer and louder than unstressed syllables. They also have some pitch change or movement of the voice up or down. What will happen if I don't use stress? You may sabotage your communication and you may risk tiring and confusing listeners. Listeners may not be able to recognize even simple vocabulary if you stress syllables equally or use incorrect word stress. Listeners may not follow your meaning if you don't stress key words in information chunks. Okay. In the previous video, I talked about level of stress briefly. I mentioned the primary stress, secondary stress, and unstressed syllables. These three complement each other to make your message or your communication good. We have the primary stress, the loudest syllable in the word, and primary stress is marked in the API by putting a raised vertical line like this. We talked about this in the previous video at the beginning of the syllable. Then we have the secondary stress, which aren't completely unstressed, but aren't as loud as the primary stress. So it's strong but not strong enough like the primary stress. Secondary stress is marked with a lowered vertical line like this at the beginning of the syllable. Unstressed syllables that have no stress at all. In English, almost all of these have schwa for their vowel, though e, short e, will also often be unstressed, like we talked about it in the previous video. We said if we have schwa sound and e, short e, we have weak syllable. We cannot stress weak syllables. Like the e in happy, very rarely another non-schwa vowel might be unstressed, like the o of potato for most speakers. Every English word has primary stress, like money, product. The secondary stress is optional in long words, like responsibility. Responsibility. When the two types of stress occurs in a word, there should be one or more unstressed syllable between them. To make balance, you cannot stress everything. Like here, you have the primary stress in bill, the secondary stress in span. So here unstressed, unstressed. So unstressed, stress, unstressed, stress, and so on. Responsibility. Let's move on to the complex words, polysyllabic words. As Rock said in page 82, complex words are of two major types. So we have two types of complex words. Words made from a basic word form, which we call the stem, with the addition of an affix. The affix is prefix and suffix. For example, lovable. Lovable, the stem is love and the affix is able. Compound words, which are made of two or occasionally more independent English words. It's like simple words combined together, like ice cream, armchair, fireman, fruitcake, and so on. as we said, we have the complex words into two. The stem with the affixes. The affixes are prefixes and suffixes. Then we have the compound words. Today I will talk about, or I will explain only the first part because we have a lot in it. Affixes have one of three possible effects on word stress. Okay, we have the bad boys, the strong bad boys, we have the poor guys, and we have the intelligent one. Okay, don't forget about them. Okay, about the strong bad boys. The affix itself receives the primary stress, so they are so strong that they take the spotlight from the syllables, the other syllables. Then we have the poor guys. The word is stressed as if the affix were not there. They are invisible. مساكين. Then we have the intelligent one, or the intelligent group. The stress remains on the stem, not the affix, so they are not that strong like the bad boys, but they are intelligent. They change, or they shift the stress to a different syllable. So, but is shifted to a different syllable. Okay? Don't forget about these three. What is a suffix? A suffix is a word ending, a group of letters you can add to the end of root word or the stem, like walking, helpful. A root word stands on its own as a word, but you can make new words from it by adding beginnings, like prefix, and endings, suffix. For example, comfort is a root word. By adding the suffix able, you can make new words such as comforting or comfortable. Let's talk about the strong bad boys. Suffix carrying primary stress themselves. So they are so strong, they stole the spotlight. Just remember them. They are five. The ear, is, et, esk. So E, like refugee, like you see here, the stress on the E, the G. Ear, volunteer, okay, ear. Japanese, is. Cigarette, et. And picturesque, esk. These, the strong bad boys. Okay, there are five. Don't forget about them. They carry the primary stress. Okay. Suffix that do not affect stress placement. The poor guys. And there are 16. You have to memorize them. I'm so sorry. Okay. Like here, able. You see the word comfort. The stress on the first syllable of comfort. When you add able, comfortable, the stress remain on the first syllable. And so on for the rest of the words. Anchor, anchorage, the same. Wide, first. Widen, the same. Wonder, the first. Wonderful, the first, same. Amaze, the second here, because it's schwa, second. Amazing, the second. Like, okay, bird, the first. Bird-like, the first, the same. Less, power, the same here, the first. Powerless, the same here, the first. Okay? Li, hard, the first. Hardly, the first. Meant, punish, here the first. Punishment, the first. The same. Ness, Yellow, yellow. Yellowness, the same. Us. Poison, the same here, the first. Poisonous, the same. Glory, the first. Glorify, the first, the same. Wise, here, other, the same, the first. Otherwise is the first, the same here. E. Fun. Fun is the first syllable, and funny is the first syllable, it's the same. So, we talked about the strong bad boys, that they carry the primary stress and they steal the spotlight. There are 5, don't forget about them. Then we talked about the poor guys, that they are invisible, suffix that do not affect a stress placement. Okay, there are 16. Then we have the intelligent one, that they change or shift the primary stress from syllable to another. We have suffixes that influence stress in the stem. We have 2 types. We have on the penultimate syllable. What is penultimate? Is the second from the end. Okay, this is the suffixes. I will give you an examples for a moment. For example, we have economic. Here, ek, okay? Economic. So, here, this is the end. So, 1, 2. We have to put the primary stress on the penultimate. The second from the end. ما قبل الأخير. الشدة أو stress يجي على المقطع ما قبل الأخير. This is the type. This is 1, this is 2, so we have to put the primary stress on the second stress. Then we have on the antepenultimate syllable, the third from the end. And these are the suffixes. For example, photography. We have phi here, okay? So, antepenultimate or the third from the end, we have 1, 2, 3. The primary stress on the third. The antepenultimate. ما قبل الأخير. قبل الأخير. Here ما قبل الأخير, and here ما قبل الأخير. Okay, so you have to memorize it and you will be fine. Okay, in these examples, primary stress is on the penultimate syllable, second from the end. We have ek, x, sion, shen, yan, ish. It's like I'm speaking Chinese. Words that end in ik, x, like economic. See here, economic, the end, and 1, 2. This is the primary stress. Okay, like mathematics. Here, x, 1, 2. Here, the primary stress. Words that end in sion and shen, like illusion, jin. Okay, jin. Okay, 1, 2. We have to put the primary stress here. Education. Here, shen, 1, 2. So the primary stress in K. Words that end in yan, like civilian. Here, yan, 1, 2. The stress here. Words that end in yos, ish. I didn't write it here. So, okay, yos and ish, like delicious. Delicious. Here is 1, 2. The stress is here. Childish. Here ish, and 1, 2. The primary stress in on the first syllable. So we completed the first type of suffixes that influence the stress placement on the penultimate syllable or the second from the end. Economic, 1, 2, and the primary stress is here. Then we will talk about the antepenultimate syllable, the third from the end. We have here 3. Don't forget about number 3. In these examples, primary stress is on the antepenultimate syllable, third from the end. Words that end in C, T, F, G, like democracy, geography, philosophy, photography. So we count from the end 3 and put the primary on it. Okay? So 1, 2, 3. جت بالصدفة. Words that end in L, like a critical, digital, magical. So cal, 1, 2, 3. We put the stress or the primary stress here. Okay. Words that end in eyes. Eyes. Okay. Like centralize, centralize. 1, 2, 3. Primary. Organize. 1, 2, 3. Primary. Okay. Words that end in 8, like delicate. 1, 2, 3. The primary stress is here. It is easy, okay, but you have to memorize them to differentiate between the antepenultimate and the penultimate, the second from the end and the third from the end. Okay? You have to differentiate between the suffix that influence stress placement and suffix that do not affect the stress placement. And you have to memorize the bad boys, the strong. I had enough of the suffixes. Now let's move to the prefixes. And it is easy. Prefixes. The most effective way to describe how stress works in words with prefixes is to use the same rules as we use for longer words without prefixes. So prefixes do not change the stress placement, do not affect the stress placement. For example, here we have disconnect. This is prefix, so we will deal with the word like we don't have the prefix. Connect. Connect is a verb and it is 2 syllables. So in general rule, in verb with 2 syllables, we have to stress or put this primary stress on the second part or the second syllable. Okay, so this is the primary stress. To make sure, I cannot stress this k because we have schwa sound. So this is a weak syllable. Let's try this word stress quiz. Okay. Can you pass me a plastic knife? Plastic. So I think it's the first one because plastic. Here the E sound is so weak, so we'll emphasize this. Okay. I want to be a photographer. Photographer. I think the second one. I don't know. I don't think we stress the first syllable because here air, and if we have photograph, graph. Yeah, like a photograph. Graph. So we have 1, 2, 3. So the stress is in photo. Photograph. But here it's not in pho because here we have er. So 1, 2, 3. So the stress in 2. Wallahu a'lam. He was born in China. China? No, I never stressed the second syllable. Yeah, it's China. I hope so. Whose computer is this? Computer. It's not ta because this is schwa sound. Compu. Wallahu alam. I can't decide which book to borrow. Decide. decide. Yeah, I think because D, we never stress D. I don't know. Couldn't you understand what she was saying? Understand, stand. Yeah, it's an the here, schwa sound here. It's not stress because it's a prefix, and here. No, it's a prefix. كده ألف من راسي. Stand, okay. Voting in elections is your most important duty. Important. It's not M, it's important. I can hear pour blowing on my face. Pa. Okay. We had really interesting conversation. We have shin. Oh, 1, 2, station. Yeah. It's the penultimate. Okay, here, 1, 2. So station. You cannot fool me. How do you pronounce? Because it's a verb and we stress the second part or the second syllable. God. I write it correct. I'm so proud of myself.